Chapter 353, Shock. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. One of the elder soldiers was holding a long spear. He walked toward Zhang Yuochen. Before he even started, Guogo sent him flying with one palm. Guogo sighed, "I told you not to come near. If you are blocking his way, you are looking for death." A rabbit that was taller than a human was actually talking like a human. The soldiers were amazed, especially the soldier who was sent flying by him. Finding himself tens of meters away without a single wound on his body, he was even more terrified. The young swordsman and the rabbit were extraordinary martial arts swordsmen. Provoking them was not a good idea. The soldiers did not dare to attack Zhang Yuochen. They merely stood back and watched as he entered Yanwu City. Yanwu City was still bustling with streams of people, horses and carriages. Occasionally, you could hear people talking about the great change in the palace and the tragic homicide of the Lin family. The seventh prince is extremely cruel and merciless. In order to ascend the throne, he actually killed every prince of the royal family. All of the princes and princesses are ghosts now. It is said that several princes knelt down begging and wanted to surrender to him, yet he still executed them. Anyway, this is the business of the royal family. It has nothing to do with us. It wasn't just the royal family. Even the Lin family have all been killed. 847 bodies in the courtyard and still not buried. Their blood spilled onto the street. Why did the seventh prince kill the Lin family? It must be related to the ninth prince. The leader of the Lin family is the ninth prince's grandfather. It was said that he was also killed. His head chopped right off. My, how sinful he is. Hey, quickly, look. That man holding a sword looks like the ninth prince. Zhang Yuochen was walking on the street and attracted some attention. He had finally been recognized by someone. It's the ninth prince. He has actually come back. The palace has gone through great changes. He has to come back. It's a pity that he can't change anything. Almost all the royal family members were killed. The seventh prince has become the leader of the Yanwu Commandery. Why does he come alone? The fourth prince came back with an army and couldn't avenge his father. What's the use of him coming back alone? He has just come back to die. What happened in the royal family indeed caused a lot of shock, but it did not affect ordinary people's daily life. They did not really care who the king of Yanwu Commandery was. Of course, there were many people who secretly cursed and scolded Zhang Tangai. They said that he was utterly devoid of conscience to kill his own father and brothers. At the same time, the news of Zhang Yuochen entering Yanwu City was passed to the palace and Zhang Tangai. Zhang Tangai was extremely surprised. He looked at the reporting soldier and confirmed with him, "Are you sure it is Zhang Yuochen?" "It's him." "There's absolutely no mistake," the soldier said firmly. "By himself?" "That's right. Only him, and a rabbit." Square Commandery Prince and Presbyter Jin are hurrying over with their men. "Your Majesty, should we send an army to kill him?" "How can this be? Our young master went to kill Zhang Yuochen personally, and he escaped." Zhang Tangai had a bad feeling about this. Zhang Tangai sat back again and gently shook his head. "Since the Square Commandery Prince and Jin Quan are already on their way, I think they can handle Zhang Yuochen. If they can't, then no matter how many armies you send, it will also be in vain. Pass my order right now to initialize the formation of palace protection. If Zhang Yuochen wants to come back to die, then I will fulfill his desire." At this very moment, there were footsteps coming from outside the palace. Control plus enter. The queen quickly walked in from outside. She was a bit frightened and said, "Gaia, I heard that Zhang Yuochen has come back." "Didn't you say that Zhang Yuochen had been killed by the young master of the Black Market Excellence Hall? Why is he back in Yanwu City?" Zhang Tangai gave a small smile. "Don't worry, mother. Even if Zhang Yuochen has come back, his cultivation is only in the initial stage of the Heaven Realm. The Square Commandery Prince and Jin Quan are top masters who have practiced the martial soul. It will be easy to handle him." The queen relaxed a little. She said, "What do we need to do now?" "We don't need to do anything. We just need to go stand on the city wall and watch how Zhang Yuochen gets killed by masters of the Square Commandery." Zhang Tangai had one last card in his hands. He was very calm without a glimmer of fear. He was still confused as to how Zhang Yuochen had managed to escape from the trap Yi had set up though. Zhang Tangai and the queen walked out of the palace and ascended the city wall. looking far into the distance. They soon saw Zhang Yuochen walking on the wide street. Zhang Yuochen's presence caused a big shock throughout the entire city. Lots of warriors hurried over, surrounding the street. In the Yunwu Commandery, almost all of the warriors knew that there were two world-famous talents in the royal family. One was the 7th prince, and the other one was the 9th prince. Many people were secretly discussing how the 7th prince was more powerful or the 9th prince was more outstanding. The palace had gone through a great change and now the 9th prince was back. Everything seemed to predict that there would be a great battle between the two princes. Brothers turned against each other and geniuses fought with each other. This was something that all warriors could expect. Lin Ningshan and Lin Chenyu wore bamboo hats and dressed in black cloaks. They were walking in the crowd watching Zhang Yuochen, who was in the middle of the street, from a distance. It is indeed him. He's back. Lin Ningshan's eyes were swollen and red, as she stared at Zhang Yuochen who stood in the distance. She had a different feeling in her heart. Only 3 short years had passed. The once weak and sick cousin had turned into a world-famous master. Lin Chenyu said with his hoarse voice, "What's the point of coming back?" "Well, he can avenge our father and grandfather," Lin Ningshan said. After the Lin family members were all killed, Lin Ningshan and Lin Chenyu secretly returned to Yunwu City. Unfortunately, many masters of the black market had been hiding outside the Lin mansion. They did not even have a chance to get the bodies back and could only watch the bodies of their families fall into the blood pool, slowly rotting. Lin Chenyu said, "Zhang Tangai is controlling the situation and surrendered himself to the black market. He has many masters at his side. Zhang Yuochen has returned alone. He is an egg bashing itself against a rock. Zhang Yuochen is too impulsive. He will die for sure." In Lin Chenyu's opinion, Zhang Yuochen was indeed very stupid. His martial cultivation was not powerful enough and yet, he'd come back for revenge. What was that if not stupid? There was a sudden clicking sound coming from the street. A group of soldiers in golden armor rode on giant savage beasts, galloping from a distance. They rolled up a large amount of smoke and dust, resulting in tremendous momentum. The ground shook violently. All the warriors on the streets were shocked. They immediately dispersed, retreating to the shops on either side of the street. In the lead of the army was a middle-aged man with a steel needle beard and elite tiger mask. He carried a long bronze halberd on his back and rode on a 4-meter-high blue-eyed golden lion. When he saw Zhang Yuochen in front of him, he showed a cold expression in his eyes and roared loudly. The blue-eyed golden lion received an order and stopped immediately. There were 2 tubes of white smoke coming out from its nostrils. The dozen or so soldiers behind him also called their lions to stop and stood in the back. The entire street exhibited an awful atmosphere. Powerful martial arts aura radiated from the bodies of the soldiers, frightening the surrounding warriors. Who the hell were these soldiers? How come they had such powerful momentum? They were definitely not ordinary warriors. Zhang Yuochen stopped and raised his head to look, staring at the face of the middle-aged man in the forefront. He said, "Square Commandery Prince, you are a fierce and powerful person. When did you become a soldier of the Yunwu Commandery?" That's right. The man at the forefront was the Square Commandery Prince. More than a dozen soldiers stood behind him and they were all top masters in the Square Commandery. If Di Yi hadn't ordered the Square Commandery Prince to listen to Zhang Tangai, why was the Square Commandery Prince willing to listen to Zhang Tangai? Of course, he and Zhang Tangai also had a common enemy. Zhang Yuochen. Zhang Yuochen had appeared, and of course the Square Commandery Prince had immediately rushed over. "Zhang Yuochen, you are very lucky that you didn't die in the underwater dragon palace. However, since you won't be able to come to Yunwu City of the Yunwu Commandery, you will have no chance to escape," the Square Commandery Prince said coldly. Zhang Yuochen replied, "I've come back to settle something with Zhang Tangai. I suggest that you don't get involved." "You mean something about killing the Yunwu Commandery Prince?" "Ha ha. To tell you the truth, I am an interested party. The top master of the Yunwu Commandery, your great-grandfather, I killed him. He couldn't withstand a single blow." The Square Commandery Prince deliberately said this to provoke Zhang Yuochen. Originally, Zhang Yuochen had not wanted to deal with warriors of the Square Commandery. He just wanted to kill Zhang Tangai. But now his killing intent was expanding. phht. A stroke of cold genuine chi emitted from Zhang Yuochen's body. It froze into ice on the ground, and continuously spread out several meters. You are angry because of this? The Square Commandery Prince smiled. I haven't told you that I also killed your grandfather, the master of the Lin family. I chopped off his head with a handheld knife. The top masters of your Yunwu Commandery were too weak. Ha ha. All of the soldiers behind the Square Commandery Prince laughed. Well then, you have to pay a heavy price for the crime you've committed, Zhang Yuochen said coldly. The Square Commandery warriors laughed again like they had heard something funny. Zhang Yuochen, you think you are powerful? With the Commandery Prince and Elder Lao here, you still want revenge? A Square Commandery warrior in the mid-stage of the Heaven Realm laughed. He was Wang Jianyi, the Square Commandery Prince's eldest disciple. He had once been a senior general who attended to garrison duty in the Square Commandery.